It is, as NA said, that Sett player going head to head against Lux. Both of these players 3-1. Who's going to end up taking it down and potentially locking in their spot to this top 4 cut?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I don't know that much about the Lux tech besides it is play big spell and get a free draw. And then the champion unit, which is going to be called, I believe it's Lux Round Guard, is essentially lets you pay extra cost like the Darius Legend, except for spells instead. So definitely will be an interesting one. Do you have any hidden Lux knowledge? Plus.
No, not too much. The last Lux I saw was playing the actual mana rock. I believe that's what it's called, or it has a different name. Unlike the seals that can only be used for power, you end up using it as a pure energy. So it is an extra mana each and every turn. That's what I saw before in Lux builds. Because she is running something like Aspirin Climb, so she wants to bring this game into the later rounds. So we'll see how it benefits her the more on we go in this round, or in this game rather. But Sett starting things off rather straightforward. The Glory Seeker taking over the Hirana and hides one card there. Most likely could be something like a Hidden Blade we saw before. But this is looking good for Sett. Already has a well-developed arena bar. You love to see that as a Sett player.
Yeah, and I will say, I do think that Sett could be a bit of a hard matchup for Lux, as the Sett does have the ability to save the units from the removal spells. That is one of the best features of Sett versus the Kaisa deck, for instance, is the Kaisa deck will spend the runes to remove the units with like the beams, with the falling stars, and then you just say, okay, I'm going to save it with my Sett leader. So that could be a bit of an issue for Lux, but I'm sure that our Lux player knows their hero and they have a game plan for this.
Yeah, we'll see how she approaches. Indeed, it looks like a Fiora getting played on directly onto the battlefield. Gets the Mighty Trigger already thanks to Arena Bar. Every turn you get to play it on an exhausted unit. Arena Bar is such a good tech. You don't want to oftentimes run all three because you don't get too much value from more than one. Of course, unless you're of course playing out a lot of units in that same turn, but Sett tends to play off bigger creatures instead of a lot of creatures more often than not. Passes over back to Lux, that drummer wanting to get some value from going onto a battlefield by moving. But that one on the right, the Hirana, doesn't look too ideal unless you have something like a Singularity to try to take these down. But of course, with having the Mighty, there is a deflect cost you're going to have to pay, unfortunately. It could be worth it. That's 5. Oh, it is going to be a falling comet onto the Glory Seeker. Interesting.
Yeah, this is a bit interesting from this Sett. I would expect more of an aggressive game plan in that you can kind of not ignore, but you can avoid a lot of the removal from Lux. And this does seem to be playing at a bit more of Lux's pace, where you're just holding onto one battlefield and slowly taking these points one after another. I would have expected a bit more, and I'm sure these players might know the matchups better than me, so I'm sure he has a plan. But I would have expected more throwing units at both battlefields and saying, hey, I know you're playing this spell deck that wants to ramp up. I'm going to force you to actually play the game here.
And responding with a Hidden Blade, so getting 2 draws. And that interaction seems so insane to me because you save it with the Sett, but somehow you still end up getting the draw too. It just doesn't make too much common sense if you ask me, but it is what it is. It is how the ruling stands. So he tried to target the Glory Seeker with the Falling Comet, reacts with Hidden Blade onto the Glory Seeker, uses the Sett ability on the Glory Seeker, and then I believe how the ruling currently is you still get the +2 draw from the Hidden Blade. Do you know that interaction, NA? Can you confirm?
I believe that's how that works. I have had some issues at our local specifically with this card, and I do know that it does not. You don't get the draws if you recall the unit. So if they're using it on you, I believe it's because you still control the unit. I want to say I'm not a judge. I will eventually do the judge test or however they do it, but I am kind of waiting for the rules to be nailed down as they still seem to get a lot of revisions, right?
Yeah.
But it
Now, I
looks
think
like the players are discussing this, yeah.
yeah, or there's actually a judge call. It is indeed a judge call, and they're talking about it to a current judge, one of our new judges. So shout out to our new judges. We try to recruit a couple casters and a couple judges just to have a bit more rotation, because I don't want to burn out these judges as well as the casters. But I appreciate you guys, just like I appreciate NA coming on. But let's see what the judge decides to say, because targets are chosen. I know that part. The only part I would have somewhat of an issue on is if the set does indeed draw 2, because everything was played fairly. You don't get to redirect the damage from the falling comet. You chose the target. It became an invalid target because of the hidden blade destroying it. So we'll see what the judge ends up ruling.
Yeah, and the Lux will get a draw from the leader ability here, regardless of if the spell does kill anything or not. So
yeah,
getting something out of it at the very least, even if it is not the outcome you might have wanted.
so yeah, it does exhaust the set because you ended up using it for the Glory Seeker, and doesn't get the draw too. So interesting. I'll have to look back. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. Oh no, there it is. So it does get the draw too.
This does open up an opportunity to move in on the Fiora. I don't know if Lux plays enough combat tricks to actually go ahead and take that, but with the set leader ability gone, it does leave Fiora open for a single turn.
It does. Keep in mind, it isn't that mighty range, so you have shield, so it goes up to +1. So total of 5 defending, because if it was indeed the 4 total might defending, you can at least trade evenly. Try to not let Sett gain any extra points, and by gaining any extra points, he will. Holding with Fiora, going up to 3. So not too bad. I mean, you took down... I mean, that wasn't, I'll be honest, that wasn't too much of an ideal turn for Lux. It ended up just equaling draw 2 for Sett and pass. But seeing what he can do this turn, because you do have quite the bit of tools next turn in terms of cards, in terms of runes, does get the Aspirant Climb. So going up to 4 right now. Let's see if he has maybe willing to put out the Sett Brawler as early as now. But it looks like a first mate. Perhaps setting up a little retreat back to base to keep it nice and safe for a follow-up push.
Yeah, I would say it was actually even a little bit worse than that, because using the set leader ability did essentially allow a free retreat from the Glory Seeker, which then lets him push up aggressively onto the Aspirant's Climb on the next turn. But obviously, he did have the first mate, so that option was always available regardless. But pretty decent board being developed here.
Yeah, so far so good. Spamming out a bunch of Glory Seekers onto the board. And I did misspoke. I'm seeing chat saying Fiora with the buff had 5, so with shield she does get +1 more, of course. But passes it back over to Lux. We saw things like Falling Comet. I'm going to bet she also has a Singularity. Lux known for playing spells. She gets draw 1 for every spell that's 5 or more. So she wants to go ahead and optimize each and every turn to try to make the most value you can from that legend ability. She also has her champion. We don't get to see it too often, but a reaction add 2, similar to Kai'Sa, but instead of giving you power, you get 2 raw energy, and you can only use that for spells. So Soaring Scout looking to just conquer quickly the Aspirant Climb just to put some more points on the board.
Yeah, I will say the set colors, order, and body, not incredible at picking off units in the base. A common card that Sett might play is like a challenge. That would be probably one of the few cards that he would play that would remove that Lux if the Lux was played from into the base. That being said, it might just be better for Lux to go for like a big spell this turn and try and so there's one we don't.
That's a Lux spell. Recruit of the Vanguard. Play out not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 total recruit tokens. Not only does that activate Lux ability, so able to draw, but setting up for a monstrous grand stratagem term if she does tend to run that, which would make sense. I could almost see something like a Grand Plaza Battlefield kind of potentially in game 2, game 3, because look how many units, especially with those drummers going into something like a Grand Plaza, you definitely have more than 7. You just have to hold that, of course, which is a whole lot easier said than done. But 2 drummers, I don't think that's enough to take care of the Harana this very turn. With 3 runes remaining, what can she possibly do? I think he's going to let that hold for Sett one more time.
Yeah, Order does have some pretty powerful tools that Lux has access to here with all these tokens. Like, again, the Call the Weeks, which against a deck like Sett that does like these powerful singular units rather than a bunch of little useless bodies, you're happily trading a single token for instance, even just a Trifarian Glory Seeker, right? Like, it is a 2-for-1 might trade, and you're pretty much ramped up almost entirely with your runes, so you don't mind too much using a few of them. There is potentially like a 1,000-tailed Watcher or something coming down next turn, as you are a mind deck, and I think every mind deck is playing that card. Near every.
To be fair, I don't think I've ever seen a Watcher coming down at the hands of a Lux, but another card we don't see too often, the Divine Judgment, one of the tech cards coming from the National Open. The top placing Sett had 1 in the main board, 2 in the side deck. Each player chooses 2 units, 2 gears, 2 runes, and 2 cards in hands. Sett is used to playing at a little bit of a rune disadvantage just because of the Sett ability recycling so many runes, so this is not too bad for him, but completely disastrous for this Lux player. How many runes did she just have to give up, NA?
Yeah, this is really not good for Lux. Like, this is honestly probably one of the worst cards you could see here, as your legend has no ability if you don't have runes.
Right.
you need 6 or 5 to even do anything. And Sett really thrives in this simplified game state because you cannot remove his units and he can remove yours because of the legend ability. So that puts things in a really, really bad spot for Lux. I'm curious to see how she can bounce back from this.
Yeah, that indeed, because they're dwindling their cards down to just 2. It looks like Lux decides first and then Sett decides after. And Sett I think they're taking it back so far. And maybe I didn't realize or not, but I have the battlefields backwards. It should be Monastery on Sett, but I'll change it for this following round. We'll let it be for now. You guys know Sett is a resident Monastery Harana player. But wait, where did the recruit? Oh, no, they came from the drummer, of course.
Did Sett not recycle his hand? Shouldn't he only have 2 cards?
Yeah, he should just have 2 cards in hand. I wonder what's going on with that. Perhaps Lux hasn't pointed that out. Each player goes down to 2 of every type of card in the game.
And you cannot rewind the game state because you don't know what card they drew for turn. And they know, but there's no way to prove it. So
and I think what the judge is doing is just randomizing the hand, sending 3 back. Yeah, I think that's the best you can do since you can't prove what card is staying. It's kind of just taking him at his word, which you could, but deciding to put 3 just either at the bottom or the top. Okay, recycle 3. I can respect that. I believe that's as best as you can do for the time being, but he should have 1 more for the draw. So he had 2, and then he's going to take his turn and draw up to 3. I'm pretty sure hopefully his opponent is okay with that. He's definitely going to get a warning for that, but no kind of this is a weekly. There's something on the line, but there's not a crazy amount on the line, of course. We're all just trying to get better at the game, improve in higher tense situations, trying to practice for these bigger events coming up later on this month and the following month.
So what it looks like happened is the judge had him lay out his hand, and the Lux player just chose 3 cards to recycle back.
Mm-hmm.
So this totally okay in a online tournament without a ton of stakes, but just be aware that in a actual match you would be getting a match loss here. So important to know.
Yeah,
This is
but
again, make sure you know your rulings. Make sure you know how all the rules and such.
that's right. And shout out to our judges doing the best they can. But I do think he should have had at least one more card in hand for the turn. Actually, he Divine Judgment down to 2. And then I will have to rewatch. Either way, we'll try to continue to the best of our abilities. Call to Glory was one of the cards that remained in hand, so quite fortunate for the Sett player. Able to conquer Aspirant Climb, going all the way up to 7 already. So just 2 more points since it is indeed Aspirant Climb. Luck seems to be at 4 already. And 3 cards in hand, 5 runes. What she almost had 12 runes, what would have been this turn. So it sets her back quite significantly. And oh, she's just gonna have to start from square one. And I think it might be a little bit too late. That Divine Judgment, if it was executed perfectly, and it might still be game deciding, but if it was executed perfectly, it would have been insane. But Falling Comet, at the very least, able to get deployed out on the Fiora, does come at a deflect cost.
This is not a spot you want to be in. The Sett leader ability coming in clutch here. Going to be able to save this for free. I don't quite know what Lux can do to get out of this, as once you're down to this few runes, like what really aren't a lot of cards that you can use for such low cost.
Yeah, I can see why this Lux player made it far, because she was able to develop such a massive board as early as the mid game, it feels like, but not a lot of players can really play around Divine Judgment, right? So I just think she wasn't prepared for something like that, and it really put a big hindrance on that game plan. Sett, on the other hand, going up to 8, just a final hold. One more hold on this Fiora, which seems likely with that hidden card, might or might not be Hidden Blade. Goes with the Singularity. Has to deflect 2. That's the only valid target, so you're choosing it twice.
Can you? I think you can only target it once.
Okay.
Because this is up
because it
2
dies,
units.
right? Actually, wait a second. It dies, and then you have to play the Sett ability, and then that dies. Okay, that's what's going on.
Yeah, well, I think what happens is you say up to 2 units, and you only control 1 unit, so you can only target 1 unit. And in which case, the Fiora then gets saved, and the game should be over.
Yeah, that is right. It does say up to 2 units, so you're only able to choose 1 since the Hidden Blade isn't revealed information. So Sett goes up to, well, you still got to conquer 2. You still got to conquer 2 since it's at that game point 9 being the game point. If there's something like a first mate, but you don't have enough rooms because you also brought yourself down to size in terms of that room department. Oh, of course, the showstopper, Sett's infamous signature spell. Gonna be bringing that Centuria into the Aspirant Climb, claiming that 9th and final point for the Sett. What an insane bit of a roller coaster of a game that game 1 was.
Spells to trigger the leader ability. I will say that is a little bit scary against the Sett deck that has shown that it plays Divine Judgment, and it could play a bunch of copies of that too, and that feels a bit like a checkmate. I guess you just got to try and control early and do establish that board presence early, and then maybe it would not matter. You'll say, okay, it's fine. Your board isn't great either. I can get out of this.
Yeah, let's see how she approaches this game number 2 of our very last round of Swiss. Lux starting things off rather straightforward with the Sentry. I'm not sure if she reset her points, but we reset it on our end because I think I see it on tabletop in front of us that she's still at 4, but she'll get it together shortly. Passing back to, ooh, Sett just go ahead and channeled and passed, so this could be a little breathing room for the Lux to try to score some points early on.
Yeah, Sett whiffing a unit is pretty big for Lux. This lets her push up onto the hillock without really any contest, and hopefully just allowing her to accelerate into her high power costs without too much opposition. Hopefully, it is a bit surprising that Sett did miss the drop, as Sett does tend to play like at least 6 2-drops and no, even more, because you played the Glory Seeker as well. So like 9 2-drops and potentially up to like 9 3-drops. Unfortunate on his end.
So just has to play out the brawler there, passes it. So Lux going up on those point departments. One for the hold on the Hillock, has the Yordle to most likely conquer. I mean, Sett's completely tapped out, so a free conquer on the Sigil. I say free with the big caveat being you're going to have to recycle your own rune for that conquer. You want it to be a little bit of a downside for your opponent, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Noxian Drummer getting played out just onto the base. Is she thinking of perhaps not conquering the Sigil to stay a bit healthier on runes? I feel like you still conquer, no? No, she doesn't.
That's interesting. I definitely feel like I would want to be the aggressor here, as seen as Sett did with a early unit and decided to play the champion unit. This does feel like it's telling me that they are playing for that Divine Judgment again, in that they just aren't going to commit these small units, that maybe they didn't even draw them. Maybe they hard mulliganed for that Divine Judgment. And committing the... Ooh, okay.
Phase Breaker. Nice. So both units are stunned. They can't do damage to each other, so it's just going to be recalled back to base. I think this is a way, because she was probably expecting something like a Showstopper slash first mate. I know Showstopper's from base to battlefield, but if it was a first mate, Showstopper, there it is. So you're able to go at it one more time. Do you keep the 8? I think the 8 should be enough, but I believe the Phase Breaker reads stun. Oh no, I thought it read for the turn. It's just for that combat.
Yep, though Lux can't be too unhappy. You still get the draw off the sentry. I would be a little bit afraid here of a judgment next turn, but that being said, Sett has recycled quite a few runes, so now we are 2 turns away from that judgment. So maybe not as afraid anymore, maybe can push a bit aggressively. This is why I liked what you said about probably still taking the Sigil, is so that you can get as far ahead as you can, try and get really far ahead before the okay, that's really powerful here.
Oh yeah, that's definitely the sideboard card. Unyielding Spirit, prevent all spell damage this turn. Massive swing for Sett. That would have been devastating, costing him another recycle rune from the Sett ability, and more importantly, would have taken out another unit off of that board. So man, this is why Sett can be so strong sometimes. Has perfect sideboard options and apparently has new tech going forward into the meta. I am excited for the future of Sett builds.
Chad is saying that stun is for the entire turn. Do you want to maybe ping a judge and get a ruling? Because that does seem like that would matter.
Actually, yeah, that could be just how the base stun is. Here, I'll tell these players to stop. Man, so many judge calls, but that's what it is about playing Riftbound online. I mean, even in person, there's nothing any bit different.
Yeah.
I'll tell these guys
in the
wait.
chat for keeping your eyes out. It is a new game. Everyone's learning the rules.
Wait, no, the card didn't say on the turn. It's just if the stun mechanic reads in the core rules, stun is for the entire turn. Because I read the card chat. It didn't say for the turn. That's the one thing about digital tournaments. Sometimes you actually have the tools to rewind quite literally to the exact moment the misplayed happened. And it looks like we did, chat. We are right here with a showstopper on the stun. Facebreaker Sett did end up going and pushing forward on the Hillock, taking out the sentry. So now you have that information that is stunned for the remaining of the turn. What does he decide to do from here? That was a pretty generous ruling, but I think they were given the benefit of the doubt because I think it's 3 strong warnings and that equals a DQ / game loss. So potentially one was forked over to an honest mistake. This one was his first true warning. So they go from there.
All right, well, that does change quite a bit. Lux now up will gain another point and still have that unit. So definitely could maybe regret not taking that Sigil, because then the Sigil, then you would be up quite a bit, right? Because you take 2 and then you hold 2.
Yeah,
Not
I
something I would
like the
really
sigil
expect.
because Sett has a hard time accelerating units. Potentially was playing around something like a first mate to the ganking over from the Hillock. I could understand that. But in the eyes or in the plays that doesn't happen, you can hold one battlefield while the other one's getting conquered from your opponent. So I do like that play. Okay. It looks like you passed things over. So rewinding time. Lux was at 2 at this point, so passing it over with the sentry holding means Lux goes up to 3 for the turn. And let's just play it from here, apparently.
Yeah, Lux being at 4 would be pretty big game changer here, as you could play your singularity, which I believe we saw played before, and then just retreat off the battlefields, and you would still have all your units, and you would be two turns from winning the game. But yeah, see, now we're choosing to go up, right? And we could have done this last turn and still gotten that point.
Oh, that
Yeah.
is huge. The singularity triggering Sett's ability and then call of the week, finishing it off since there's no longer a buff off the recruit token you generated from the drummer. So a lot of momentum has been picked up for this Lux player. I have the Lux at 4, but perhaps I'm missing something. Maybe the 2 was because she held, but the rewind time kind of throws off. I'll record the points that I'm seeing on the current board. So she's at 3 apparently. Passes it over, make that 5.
I'm playing the monk with no other units feels so bad. Kind of tells you, right, that there just can't be anything else good to play in the hand.
Yeah, perhaps not tilting per se, but in his head a little bit after what just happened, because a lot just went down. He thought he was ahead. He thought he had so much tempo, so much advantage built up, and just nullified down to pretty much 0, having to play from square one. Kinko Monk tries to get that momentum back for the set, trying to conquer the Hillock, gets that point. Oh, hidden blade on your own unit after the conquer just to simply draw 2. That's how you know that hand is not looking too good for the Sett player.
Yep, and I believe Lux is at 5 here, or is it 6?
That's 5 now.
Okay, so that'll put them 1 point from victory. I will say the Sett does go up to 7 runes next turn, so we could see a Divine Judgment.
Right.
Oh my, rune into hand is crazy.
It is crazy. But no, they fixed that right away. But as you said, going up to 7, has to recycle 1 for the sigil cost. So just 1 more point, aka 1 more hold from one of these battlefields. Right now, Sett only has a Fiora. Maybe something like a showstopper to keep the Fiora readied. You give it a buff, goes up to 5. That's enough then to take down the 4. Oh no, but trying to fortify it a little bit more, building up the board, building up the presence on these battlefields. I'm assuming she's going to do the same on the Hillock battlefield just to make it that much tougher for the Fiora to take down.
Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate that the Lux player maybe doesn't have access to a removal spell here, because you do potentially see from the Lux player, from the Sett player. Well, actually, no, it's probably fine, because you don't have mana for a showstopper plus a Divine Judgment, which is what I would be really afraid of. So yeah, no, this is actually probably fine. Even if you get Divine Judgmented, you're at 7 points. So they have to conquer both battlefields, and you just leave a unit at both, right?
Yeah, I like this. Just spreading it evenly down the middle. A couple on the right, a couple on the left. Making sure just with a single unit from Sett, without a Sett brawler, or most likely even a showstopper in hand, is going to make it really, really tough for Sett to really take down both of these in the same turn. All you need is a single hold, as we said before. So, oh, okay. Tapping the entirety of the runes so far. Going for Divine Judgment, but you're tapped out. I think this is just one for the show. Just saying, look what I would have had if I had a little bit more units, because at this point in the game, what are you gonna do when you? I think they're saying GG, right? There's no way they're not saying GG.
Yeah, this should be GG. Yeah, it looks like putting cards back here. You have then the singularity that you can drop down to clear the higher value units from your opponent. So honestly, last game that was pretty much watching a Victor deck.
Yeah, pretty much. This might not be late game. She just has late game battlefields. But speaking of battlefields, the Volmon's lair, when you go in, you can never come out. Because, of course, the new rules say that can't is greater than can. So even if you have things that can recall it back, you just won't be able to do that. Any unit here is here until it goes to the trash. I'm wondering, though, I haven't seen the interaction with Sett's ability. I think that could bypass it because instead of going to the trash, it goes back to base. But let's see how it reads. Does it read, you may pay exhaust and recall it? Interesting. We'll see how that ends up playing out. I don't know for 100%. I think it still works, right?
Sett's legend says it's not a move, whereas the Valmaw says it cannot move.
Right,
So
right.
I would imagine it does work.
Yeah, the only
will
thing that
say-
tripped me up was the recall.
The Fiora should be able to get around that though, as you cannot move to base, but you can gank.
Yeah, true. You could gank, so you might as well take the Volma while you can. Ravenbloom going to be taking the Dreaming Tree while she can. Going up to her first point of game 3. Let's see with 5 rooms remaining what we've seen before. I mean, man, I'm wondering, I'm trying to think already, what have we seen? We saw those Captain Vanguards. That wouldn't be too terrible. Why can't I think? What were her earlier turns? What did she have last game?
We've seen some sentries. We saw, I believe, a couple of Noxian drummers.
Right,
Oh,
that's
wow.
what I was thinking of. The drummers.
That was a really value call of the week. Very good, very good. Removing that Fiora unit that has proven to be such a pain in the butt.
Yeah, and on top of that, you get the draw from the Dreaming Tree trigger since you chose a friendly unit on that battlefield. So win-win in a lot of departments.
The Sett unit does come down. The showstopper. Oh, wow. Okay. Aggressive push here.
Aggressive indeed. Just wants to develop that board or that presence on the base since Lux probably has has one turn to set up and then could push forward. We haven't seen anything with too much of an accelerated ability. Something like a Sprite Mother wouldn't surprise me if she does indeed have it. But I like this because you're getting 1.9. Oh, I said something like the Sprite Mother would not surprise me. But Sprite Mother does get played out. Goes into the Volmon's lair. Goes up to 2. And now locking that up for now. Of course, it has temporary. So won't be netting him a hold point. Even if it does stick around. But who will be netting a hold point will be that Sett Brawler holding the Dreaming Tree. So up to 2 he goes. And we got a game on our hands, guys.
Excuse me, for sure. And seen as the Lux does not have a really wide board this time, the Divine Judgment on the Sett player's next turn would definitely not feel nearly as good as the previous times. Maybe not even the plan this game, as deciding to put a lot more units onto the field.
Yeah, one of those units being the 3/3 unit we talked about before. So Pit Rookie directly on the Dreaming Tree. You're probably going to give the buff over to the Cub, bringing it to a 3/4. That is a little bit of a respectable unit. 4 might for 3 does feel pretty good if you're Sett. Finalizes that turn with a hidden card on the tree. As we've seen, the only card that he's been playing hidden is the Hidden Blade. Perhaps even doing it on himself, netting him 3 total cards as early as this next turn for Lux, because you get rid of your Pit Rookie. That's not quite impactful. What is impactful is those 3 cards you're drawing, which pretty much doubles your entire hand. So that could be a huge play for Sett.
Don't forget the Cub. It could be a Paka Cub as well, though I
True,
think you're
true. True, I always forget it. I did forget it, actually, as you mentioned. It does have hidden.
I think you're right, though. I would expect like a Hidden Blade here, and especially with putting the Pit Rookie onto it, that tells me this is a Hidden Blade, and we're going to draw 3 cards with that Dreaming Tree. So, kind of expected, but pretty powerful interaction. It's like Stupefy on your own units, except you get an extra card.
Yeah, a little bit even more value town than Superfly. But now Lux has to consider, I could take the Volmons, but how in the world am I taking down the Dreaming Tree? Goes ahead and for the first time in this best of 3 series, Lux Crown Guard getting played out onto the base. Goes ahead, she can't exhaust it because she enters the board exhausted. So has to wait 1 turn to activate her ability of getting 2 more runes and just passes it back. So little by little, Sett increasing that advantage he has and increasing the difference in points so far, going up to 3. I wonder if he still wants to play out a Hidden Blade just to kind of draw more cards, if it is indeed a Hidden Blade and not the Cub like you said.
Yeah, I do like playing the Lux here. This does kind of insulate you from that Divine Judgment. Not that I think it's great in this board state for Sett. In fact, I don't think you'd even want to play it in this board state. But it is a good way to insulate yourself because Lux on your base essentially acts as free runes, two free runes. So when the turn passes back to you, you essentially have 6 runes to work with. So you can still cast your big spells. But doesn't look like Sett is going that route, which makes sense as you have a lot of cards in hand and you actually have some board presence here. Choosing to shore up their battlefields. I will say these are a lot of units on these battlefields, and Lux is a blue leader. Could maybe see like an unchecked power or something.
We did. You're so right. We did see her flash it a little bit when that whole Divine Judgment dilemma was going on. She showed him the unchecked power, so this could be a risky thing. She's definitely in the range. You get +2 energy from the Crown Guard Lux on the board, so you just need to pay 8 total energy, recycle 3. It is possible this turn. You do have to exhaust your units, but think about what you're taking down. There's only one unit from Sett's board that he's able to save with the legend ability, so it could be a good turn to deploy it if she does indeed have it. I guess she could also just do something as simple as a singularity to try to take down those bigger threats. I mean, would you rather try to target the smaller threats to bait out the Sett ability and then, I mean, is there such a world as 2 singularities, or am I going crazy? 2, 4, 6. No, I'm going crazy.
Yeah, they're 1 rune off of 2 singularity.
Yeah.
But I would be a little bit afraid of overcommitting your own removal and then getting hit with like a Divine Judgment when the Sett has been saved and there's just another high value unit on the board. And then you're just stuck in a spot where you can't really do too much. But it looks like that isn't the plan anyways. Instead, okay, Pacebreaker.
So the science to pick, does it read battlefield? Thunder friendly unit, enemy unit at the same battlefield. So she's playing a little bit other way around. So sends the units in there first. So Sprite Mother and the Glory Seeker, then plays the Facebreaker as the reaction, I believe it is. Yeah, oh no, it is an action, but you can still play it since you have the priority. Dreaming Tree says target. I believe you get a draw. Thunder friendly unit and an enemy unit. That is interesting. What would you think, NA? Do you think you get the draw, or it doesn't specifically say to choose?
So there were some ruling changes around Dreaming Tree that I am not entirely sure what the current status is because it's changed a couple times. There was, okay, that was a call to glory. But there were some changes that essentially said if you would only get that if you were the controller. I'm not currently aware of the status, but either way, this should be pretty rough here for Lux with the call to glory.
Yeah, I'm assuming they, of course, done the Sett Brawler. So thinking about doing the Sett ability on the Sett Brawler, try to save them. But, oh, the call to arms, I believe, are back-to-back. Give 2 friendly units +2. So Sprite Mother goes up to 5. Glory Seeker goes up to... I thought she had a buff. Doesn't she go up to 5 as well?
Glory Seeker.
Yeah, base
Thought she
2,
did as
1
well, yeah.
buff. So she should be at 5 2. And that one should net you a draw because it does say choose 2 or give 2. That one does make sense to give you a buff. Or a draw rather on Dreaming Tree.
But it looks like we're still thinking.
There was a call to glory now played on the brawler. It looks like
No, the
Syndria, yeah, it does have
is
8.
now
I'm
an
looking at it
8
now.
might, which is quite a lot of might.
Yeah, for normally 1 might unit, quite a lot of might indeed. The back-to-back doing some good work, trying to do enough to take down the Sett as well. There's a total of 10 might attacking the Dreaming Tree right now. And then right now holding it is just effectively 8 total might. So you're able to get over that. But in total, not actually one of these is stunned. What are we talking about? It's only 5 might pushing forward on Dreaming Tree. I forgot Facebreaker is your own friendly unit and an enemy. So just 5 total might. That's where it's tricky here. I don't think she's going to be able to get anything going on here because 8 might is way too high. And if the 5 goes into the brawler, you're just going to end up saving it from the Sett ability.
That definitely doesn't feel good. And I will say the Luxy unit has not been used yet, so there still is 2 extra runes potentially available. And oh, okay. It looks like they're rewinding a little bit. I'm not sure what's happening here.
Perhaps they're saying he decided on leaving the damage on the Glory Seeker instead of the Sprite Mother, which ends up being about no different since it's just 3 might on each unit.
Yeah, and it shouldn't matter, but the Glory Seeker does retain the might boost from the back-to-back, so that should be at 6 here. But it is stunned, so the Lux Champion unit being rested. Oh, okay, Singularity. This is pretty good value.
Yeah, I think very good value. He waited till the Sett Legend ability was down, not able to save that Sett Brawler the following time. So taking it down and then taking the club with it. So just 2 units remaining. If there was a way of Lux getting back into this game, it would be exactly the way she did it right there. Unfortunately, Sett retains control of both of the battlefields. So going up to 6 total points, just 2 more points to close out this best of 3 series. We are in the time extension time. Normally in the weeklies, it's over. As highest point wins goes to Sett. Let me double check if there is a time extension. That way we could keep eye, because at this point, I almost just want to let these players finish it out since they are on the featured table. But I'll double check.
Yeah, but being aware of time and playing at a pace accordingly is a skill in itself. So if you are an aspiring competitor out there, that is something you should definitely make sure that you are working on when you play, is making sure that you respect the time and play at a pace according. So
yeah, well said. We'll see if the judge, I'm not seeing it here, we'll give him a 5-minute. I know 5 can sound short, but we normally don't do any overtime. So 5 minutes from now is what we'll throw up on the clock. If no one has one from then, we'll give the person with the highest points. So Sprite Mother gets played out. That should be enough for something like that Glory Seeker on Valmon's lair. But oh, there's one too many units, I'm thinking, for the Dreaming Tree Conquer.
yeah, this is looking a little rough here. It's a lot of might on the board for Sett. This is really where you'd like to see one of those clears from Kaisa, like maybe another Singularity or an unchecked power, but definitely not enough runes up for that. Actually, she does have enough runes for that, but you would play that first, so opting to instead trade in the Sprite. Does actually have to contest here though, with Sett at what, 6 points?
Yeah, 6 points. Yeah. So has to be careful. If you let them hold, As you said, goes up to 7. Glory Seeker pushing forward into Valmons will finalize that final point. So yeah, has to throw it all, but that's not a lot of might holding it down. I think Sett could be taking this game number 3. 5 total might is what he needs to get over. I mean, easier said than done though, because Glory Seeker just has 2. You can't gank over like we saw in the previews of the Windswept Hillock. You have only 2 cards in hand. Perhaps one of those are like Divine Judgment as we saw in the previous games. He needs the exact combo of a Showstopper plus another unit. If he has a 3-4 cost unit, that's exactly what he would need. It looks like they're shortcutting a little bit. Glory Seeker trading for the Lux. So remaining 3 might. Is there a window where Lux can take this?
Well, shouldn't you just be able to retreat a unit and then showstopper it onto the unit? So all you need is a showstopper, really, or a. But they are disputing over something. No idea what.
Perhaps he hasn't passed over the turn because he didn't get the point for the hold on the Dreaming Tree yet.
Yeah, I mean, 5 runes up. It's a fair bit. Okay, it looks like they're passing over now.
Yeah, it looks like he just passed it. So decides to not send in the Glory Seeker, leaving the lonely 2 might Lux on the Valmons. Sentry has the first card played out. Is there a first mate or something? If there is, you want to retreat one of those Dreaming Tree units first. It is going to be the Showstopper, but wait a minute. Don't you want to do it with Kinku Monk?
I'm not sure why it was played this way.
Wait. Oh, the buff. There's probably a final call to glory, or even better, the primal strength plus 7, bringing that all the way up to 9 total might. Imperial Decree though gonna foil those plays. You're not gonna be able to conquer, but I don't think Lux is gonna be able to win in the next minute or two since time is almost up for these players.
Yeah, that was a big misstep. I guess it doesn't really change anything, but yeah, you definitely don't want to see it happen like that. Like you said, though, I don't think Lux can take, what, the rest of the points? How many? 5 more points in just a couple minutes? But
yeah, and we're getting word from our judge that is time in the round. So how it works from here is the highest points win. It looks to be fair. Sett most likely would have closed things out with a couple more turns since there was a big deficit in terms of points. So that will be GG. What a great game. We saw some tech that we rarely ever see, not only in these tournaments, but in every Riftbound tournament I've ever seen. So good stuff from the Sett player, really good stuff from this Lux player. Sett gonna be going forward, solidifying that score as 4-1. So we'll see if our Divine Judgment Sett will be able to take it down for that top 4 cut.